All right, so we're resuming our Parsha Shir. We are on Parshat Shoftim, page 1024. 1024. People in the back? People in the, there's, huh? Rabbis in the back. Yeah, I don't know. You better keep it that way. Okay, 1024. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol she'arecha. Judges and enforcers you shall have in all of your gates, meaning your cities. Asher Hashem Elokecha nosein l'chol yishvotecha, which God gives you to your tribes. V'shoftu es ha'am mishpat tzedek, and they shall judge the people justly. Lo sate mishpat, don't distort the judgment, don't bend the judgment. Lo sakir panim, don't play favorites. Literally means don't recognize faces. V'lo sikach shochad, don't take bribes. Ki ha-shochad ya'aver einei chachamim. Bribery blinds the eyes of the wise. V'salef, it distorts divrei tzadikim, the words of the righteous. One more pasuk. Tzedek tirdof, you must pursue justice, you must pursue. Leman tiche, in order that you live, v'yarashtes arta she'Hashem lokecha nosei lach. Okay, so what's it all about? So first of all, be aware that modern Hebrew has had a certain effect on us. Hi guys, coming in. Modern Hebrew is that you could Nachshon maybe get them some chumashim. There should be chumashim for all the guys. Welcome guys, coming in. Modern Hebrew has kind of affected us. It's misled us, because in modern Hebrew, a shoter is a policeman. So where does the word come from? Because the Torah says shoftim v'shotrim. Thanks, Nam. Shoftim v'shotrim. The Torah talks in terms of enforcers. So in modern Hebrew, so when you read the Chumash, you think, oh, there's a guy with a blue uniform, and a whistle. It doesn't say that. He happens to be, when there's a court, the court has enforcers, because if somebody doesn't want to cooperate, page 1024. If somebody doesn't want to cooperate with the judgment of the court, so then what do you do? So the Torah said, well, we're practical people. And we're Jews, we're practical. You got to have enforcers, because people may not want to cooperate. The judges rule that you have to pay him. And the guy says, yeah, but I'd rather not. I'm not that frum. You are now. Because the enforcer comes in, and he happens to be a frustrated ex-amateur boxer. And he's the enforcer for the court. So he's going to come in, and he's going to pay. So the Torah says you have to have judges, and you have to have enforcers in all of your cities. Now, one of the benefits, one of the problems that we suffer from, I don't know what it's like in other countries. In the United States, for sure, there's a backlog. There's a backlog of court cases, number one. You want to go to court, it could take you a couple of years to get to court. The Torah says you have to have judges in courts in all of your cities. And the cases move very quickly. There are no lawyers. There are no lawyers. Not that we have anything against lawyers, just that we do. But we just cut out the middleman over here. The judges cross-examine the witnesses. The judges cross-examine the litigants. The judges are experts in halacha, and they decide what the halacha is. And we move the cases one after another. You talk about it, legal experts. They're very shrewd people. They're very righteous people. They're not going to take bribes, and they move the cases very quickly. Number one. Number two, it's a strange turn of phrase. The Torah says you should have these judges, these courts at your gates. If you look at the top line, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol she'arecha, you put the courts at your gates. But these are the gates of the cities, but it means to say, why didn't it just say put them in your cities? It says at the gates of the city. So one of the things that encourages people to visit a city is if they know that if they get mugged or if they get there's some sort of legal enforcement. When you walk into town and you see the courthouse over there, and you know that there's law and order. So you're encouraged as a visitor, number one. Number two, you're also encouraged to not break the law. If you know that you could go to San Francisco and shoplift up to $1,000 without being prosecuted, hey, I'm moving. That's a great parnasa. Go shoplift or what do you call it? I told you we were talking earlier about bail reform. Right? All reform seems to be problematic. Here's bail reform. You go in and you go commit a crime, and next thing you know, you're on the street. Who wants to live? He's now talking about this guy who's apparently going to become the new mayor of New York. He's now talking about decriminalizing drunk driving, violent assault. People are in New York and say, hey, this place is going to be up for grabs. Not that New York is Gan Eden to begin with, but they're talking about, this guy's going to be up for grabs soon. So you got to have some sort of law enforcement. Therefore, it's at the gates of your city, number one. Number two, the Torah says that the idea of having enforcers, the idea of having a shoftim v'shotrim, judges and enforcers, it goes to a basic characteristic in human nature. Everybody needs some sort of supervision. Everybody needs supervision. If a person is on his own, without supervision, and to a certain extent without responsibility, so then a person, you're kind of floating through. Let me ask you a question, an interesting question. The original serpent, right? And let's go back to Gan Eden for a second. So they ate the forbidden fruit, and the serpent influenced Chava to eat the fruit. Everybody knows the story. Okay, so Adam gets punished that he's going to have to work the earth, and Chava gets punished that she's going to have to go through childbirth and the pain of childbirth and various punishments they got. Okay, he's going to have to, by the sweat of your brow, you're going to earn a living. Okay, and what does the snake get? So according to the snake, what's that? Good. He loses, like I said, you're going to crawl on your belly. So the Medrash says that he had legs, but the Torah says you're going to eat dirt. And we know that a snake, wherever the snake goes, he finds his food. Hey, can you imagine somebody giving you a carte blanche? You don't have to work. You don't have to work for a living. All you got to do is take a credit card, and everywhere you go, you just go and you swipe the card, and you have your living. What's such a curse over there? What's the curse? God says to the snake, everywhere you go, you're going to have food. What kind of curse is that? Most teenagers would thrive on that. Wherever you go, they don't even have to go to the refrigerator. Dinner is when a teenager sits down to continue eating. So what kind of curse is that to the snake that God says to the snake, well, wherever you go, you're going to have your meal. You'll have your food. Oh, what's so bad? Whatever it means that offer tochal, that you'll eat dirt. According to some, it means they'll eat rodents that live in the dirt. Snakes don't eat dirt. Different opinions. Whatever it means is readily available. So why is that a curse? Why is that a curse? How do you feel? Imagine that a father says to his son, here, you know what? Take the money. Just leave. I don't want to see you. Here, take the money. I'll give you, here's a credit card. Go. I knew a kid like that. I didn't know the kid personally. I knew of a case like that, where the father was remarried. The mother died. The father remarried. The stepmother didn't want the teenager in the house. The father was very wealthy. So he gave the kid a credit card. He gave him a car. He gave him an apartment. He gave him a place. He said, you just got to go take what you want. Just stay away. I can't have you around here. But I had all the money to spend in the world. And the kid ended up, he was suicidal. Why? Because he's got no connection. He's got nobody supervising him. He's not accountable to anybody. The snake, the curse to the snake is that God's saying to the snake, I don't want to hear from you and I don't want to see you. Just get out of here. Take what you want. Just go. Did your parents ever say that to you at some point? Get out here. Just go. Just go. Not for a long time, just for a short time. Especially with just go. Take it, go. I don't want to hear anymore. Just go. They have that with the kids all the time. Daddy, can I buy that? No. They start arguing with you. Okay, here, take the money. Just go. I don't want to hear about it. Just go. Just go. The kid feels bad. It doesn't stop them from buying the thing anyway, but they feel bad. So the curse of the snake is you've got no connection to God. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to see you. We have to work, we have to daven, because that creates that reliance on God. That's a bracha. We have the connection. We have the connection to God. The snake has no connection. So here too, the Torah is saying is basic human nature. A person feels a person has to have some sort of supervision. A person left to his own devices is going to get in trouble. Where is the supervision ultimately? Ultimately, a person gets married, there's supervision right there. Your wife becomes your supervisor. She laughs. Yeah, but she's a supervisor. There's accountability. You can't just do what you want. There's somebody else that you have to think about. And your children become supervisors to a certain extent because you don't want to set a bad example. If your kid, the first time I saw my kid, my oldest son, he was about 3 years old. A Pitzel, his little Pitzel. About 3 years old, my oldest son. So one night, I don't know why he was out. He was up. I walked past the kitchen. He's got the refrigerator door open. He's got a big bottle of pop in his hands, and he's drinking from the bottle. Not the end of the world. And I'm just sitting there looking like, where did he get an idea to do something like that? And I realized he must have seen my wife drinking out of a bottle. It's not the end of the world, but they're watching you. There are certain things that you would do, but my kid, I don't want him to see me doing that. Language. The kid comes into the house and starts talking using some blue language, and you're wondering where to get. So some things I know he got from his friends. But there are other things that I know that he didn't get from his friends. You'll find not necessarily blue language, just certain habits that you see yourself in your kids. So you put yourself on your best behavior because for no other reason, I want my kid to turn out better than me, which is in many cases not too difficult. They just stay out of prison and you'll be better than me. But at the end of the day, he becomes a supervisor. So the Torah is telling you over here, we need supervision. We need supervision. We need accountability. And not only that, gentlemen, as much as, we just had vacation. Let me ask you a question. How many days of vacation is enjoyable when you have a vacation? Usually the first day. The first day is good. You get up late, you eat pancakes in your pajamas, you drag around the house. By the second day, by the third day, you're going nuts, right? Why? Because we need structure. Isn't that interesting? You have a lot of people in the world who hate their job. Then they go on vacation. And when they go on vacation, they can't wait to go back to work. But why is that? Because they need that structure. They need that purpose. So if it's purposeless, I often wondered, somebody won a lottery. I think the biggest Powerball winning, a woman won at the Powerball was like $1.4 billion. So this woman won, a 53-year-old woman won it. I think she took one lump payment. I think it only came out to about $800 million. Now I'm wondering what I would do if I had $800 million. What would you do? And what do you do? Okay, wow, $800 million. Okay, and now I get to do whatever I want to do. Now, what am I? Okay, so the first thing, obviously, I would start watching spend some time watching reruns of Chicago championships, right? Obviously, that's the first thing that I would do. And then I would watch championships, Manchester United, which is my team. Then I would do that. Bad, right? Bad. And then it used to be Leicester. One year I was a Leicester supporter, just on a lark. They happened to win the championship that year. Then after that, I switched off. What would you do with it? At a certain point, the person needs structure. That's what the Torah is talking about. Okay, now I'll tell you something, a very interesting concept, completely not the plain meaning, but a deeper meaning. Shoftim v'shotim tritan lecha b'chol she'arecha. The gates refers to the gates of our neshama. We have a soul, we have a neshama. And the neshama has entranceways. The entranceways into the neshama are our eyes, our nose, our mouth, our ears. These are the entranceways to the neshama. Our hands, our feet, the actions that we do are the entranceway, the gateways to the neshama. The eyes are actually called the windows of the neshama. Because when you look at a person, you always make eye contact. That's an interesting, even babies, I have a 6-week-old grandson. And from, when you look at the baby, what does the baby look at? He looks straight at your eyes. Why is that? Who taught him to do that? It's instinctive. What's that? The connection. Why does he do it? Why doesn't he look at your nose? How does he know where the connection is? He's only a baby. He doesn't know much. He only knows to wake people up in the middle of the night. That he knows, and to do things that are socially unacceptable. That's all he knows. But he doesn't do it. Who taught him that? The answer is the eyes are the holiest part of the body. The eyes are a reflection. The eyes are the window to the neshama. Why is that? Because you know that the neshama is completely spiritual. And the body, the neshama is spiritual. The body is physical. Now, it's an interesting phenomenon. First of all, the eyes are the highest useful part of our body. So, I mean, the top of the head, if you play soccer, but on a day-to-day basis, the eyes are the most useful, the useful part of the body. Now, what would happen if an eyelash fell on your hand? Let's say an eyelash falls on your hand. Would you be bothered by it? Wouldn't even notice it. Probably imperceptible. What happens when an eyelash gets in the eye? Drive you nuts. Walk around all day. And there seems to be some sort of international agreement that if you ever think you have something in your eye, you're allowed to stop strangers and ask them. Isn't it interesting? Do I have something in my eye? Everybody kind of appreciates it. It's like bumming cigarettes. There's like an international agreement that you're allowed to do that. It's friends, strangers, doesn't matter. Why is it that the eyelash irritates the eye more than the hand? The answer is because the eye is so spiritual. The eyelash is physical. There's a physical invasion into something spiritual. If you want to see a person, you look at a person's eyes and you can tell a lot about the person based on what their eyes are. Because the eyes are the window into the neshama. Isn't it interesting? The face, you know what a face is called? What's a face called in Hebrew? Panim. What does the word panim mean? Bifnim. Panim. What does panim mean, gentlemen? Panim means inside. Isn't that a strange thing? The most external part of our body is called the inside. Panim. The Israeli Minister of Interior, it's called the Misrad HaPnim, the internal. Why is the panim? Why is the face called the inside? I would call it, this is my chutz. Why is it called the panim? Why is it called the inside? The answer is because a person's inside is reflected on a person's face. There's some people in life you mean, wow, that's a nice man. You just look at him the first time and say, that's a nice guy. That's a nice person. There are other people you look at and the first thing my first thought is, no matter what happens, I will never lend this person money. And that's my first thought when I look at a person's face. Why is it? Because there's a reflection of what it could be. You're wrong. The judgment is incorrect. But generally, we go with that judgment. We go with the judgment of what we see on a person's face. Shoftim v'shotrim means all of those things which we do, which are the guide, the entranceway to our neshama, whether it's with our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our hands, our feet, whatever it is, we have to have judges and enforcers. And what that means is, A, we have to judge our actions in advance. Should I be doing this or not? That's the judgment. Should I do it or not? Enforcers means then mustering up the willpower to carry through. There are two stages here. It looks not kosher, smells not kosher, feels not kosher. I should not eat this. That's my shoftim. Now I need the judges. So one judge says, if you're hungry, it's kosher, right? That is not the correct halachic approach. The correct halachic approach is, well, no matter how hungry you are, you should not indulge. And by the way, this goes back to that original snake. What did the snake say to Chava? What did the serpent say to Chava? How did he get her to eat that fruit? Which, by the way, the fruit was not what? Apple. It was not an apple. That's just something that came from the King James Bible. Oh my God will open it. That's correct. What was the temptation though? How did he kind of get her to do that? Twist it out. Okay. What is the real, so you say, Rav Hirsch, by the way, whenever you learn that section of the Torah about the snake, what's the first question that people ask? Snake and Chav, the conversation between, what's the first question adults are afraid to ask and all kids do ask? How can a snake speak? Yeah, snakes don't talk. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, right. That's right. Unless it's, parcel tongue. But snakes don't talk. Okay. So the question becomes, so what happened here? So Rav Hirsch says that original snake is really the animal inside of man. Every animal has every human being, we have got some animal in us. The conversation of it is like symbolically, obviously the Torah says literally the snake spoke and then it was taken away. The ability to speak was okay. But what the Torah is telling you is that there's a certain conversation between Chava and herself, the animal within. And the animal within, in the animal world, I've mentioned this many times in the past, in the animal world, if something looks good, smells good, and tastes good, an animal indulges. There's never been there's never been a lion in history chasing down a deer and stopping because he's thinking to himself, I really shouldn't do this. It's bad meatos. There's never been a lion. If the deer looks good, smells good, and tastes good, the lion's going to indulge. There's never been a leopard chasing down a what do you call it, whatever animals leopards chase. I don't know. They chase it. What's that? A gazelle. There you go, a gazelle. Yeah. A leopard's chasing a gazelle and then says, you know what, I'm going to control myself because otherwise I'll be flashix for 6 hours. That never happens. If it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, so then a leopard's going to indulge. A tiger's going to, an animal's going to indulge. Chava has now got to make a decision over here. Am I a two-legged animal? And if it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, I'm going to indulge. What's with this morality that if it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, but for ideological reasons I shouldn't indulge? What is that? What kind of nonsense is that? And that's a battle that we have on a regular basis. The animal within says, you're just an animal. You're just an animal. We're no different than anybody else. It looks good, smells good, and tastes good. Why in the world would you not indulge? Whereas a Torah Jew comes along and says, you know what, you're right. It does look good, smell good, and taste good. Except that I'm not just another animal. I have a moral code that I have to live by. And my moral code says that I'm going to have to judge the action. And after I judge the action, then I'm going to have to, then I'm going to have to muster up the willpower one way or another to avoid indulging. Okay. There's another idea here. If, why does it say, first of all, the word, now take a look at this very carefully. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol shorecha asher Hashem elokecha nosein lecha lishvatecha. Lishvatecha means, at a literal level, it means your tribes. But there's a word in Hebrew, the word in Hebrew, shevet, also refers to a staff of punishment. You know that we mentioned this once. The tribes have two names. They're called a shevet, and they're called a mata Ephraim. What's a shevet in Hebrew? A shevet in Hebrew means a tribe, but a shevet also means a staff. You ever get caned? Where are you, hoodie? You got caned in South Africa? That was gone by this. Your uncle's got it. They stopped it by your time, right? It's called a shevet. I don't know in England what kind of punishments do you have in England when you misbehaved? They gave you a belt?
Yeah, not when we were going.
Huh? Before that, they put a stop to it already. Yeah. All right. Okay. Or you have to put the Muslims pray for you.
Yeah, in England.
Oh, that's the punishment. Don't do us any favors, fellas. Yeah, the what do you call it? The shevet means a staff, and a mata, which is a tribe, also a mata. Moshe Rabbeinu took a mata, he took a stick. What's the connection between a tribe and a stick? Both words that the Torah uses to describe a tribe, both words mean a stick. What's the connection? What's one got to do with the other? The answer is, where do the tribes come from? Tribes are branches, they come off the main tree, which is Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So they're branches off of the tree. Therefore, the words to describe these branches are both either a mata or a shevet, which is wood, a wooden staff or a wooden stick. But the shevet also represents suffering, that a person could be hit with a staff. So the question, the commentaries say over here, completely different spin on this. Ever happened to you in life that something happened to you and you're wondering, why did I deserve this? It happens all the time. Guy loses some money. What did I do wrong? Did I deserve to lose money? The guy, what do you call somebody gets sick. So a million and one things that could happen. So what did I do wrong to deserve this? Sometimes in life we have a hunch. We suspect that we may know the reason. I had a guy once, before I was married, I was walking with a friend of mine. We were in downtown Yerushalayim, and we came down King George and turned onto Jaffa Road. And just as we turned on Jaffa Road, right in the center of downtown Yerushalayim, there was a pipe sticking out of the ground about this high. And my friend was walking, and he didn't see the pipe, so he smacked himself on his shin real hard. So he grabbed his shin, and he started hopping around on one foot. So I did the natural thing. Anybody would have, I just exploded laughing. I mean, it was hysterical. The guy's making an absolute fool of himself in public. You know, he's hopping around on one foot. And about a year and a half later, I was engaged. And my wife and I were, at the time, we were engaged. So we were walking to meet some of her relatives. And there was a courtyard. So there was a sidewalk that had an L shape to it, but there was a lawn. So she, like a normal person, was on the sidewalk. I decided to be smart and cut across the lawn. As I cut across the lawn, there was a pipe sticking out about this high, and I smacked myself on the shin real hard. I remember my first thought was, ow, that hurts. My second thought was, I know why this happened. That this is for laughing at the guy back in the day. Again, I don't even know why. It could be it's that. It could be because I used to kick my brother. It could be a lot of reasons why. At the end of the day, there are often things that happen. We don't know why it happened. It says the Torah, Shoftim v'shotrim titlen lecha b'chol sherecha. Make a judgment. Think a little bit. The Gemara says if a person sees that he's suffering, he should think to himself, Yefash peish b'masav. A person should go through his actions and say, why is it that I deserve this? Now, be careful here, gentlemen. We can never come to an absolute conclusion. Why not? We're not prophets. You need a Navi to know for sure why. But we can get pretty close. I was sitting with a former friend of mine at a table, and I bit my tongue real hard. I go, oh, it's a good one. I go, And finally, when I was able to start, I resumed breathing, and I said, oh, wow, must be because of Lashon Hara. That's a fairly good connection, right? So this guy says, well, not necessarily. It could be lying, tormenting people, verbally, misuse of vulgarity. He went through a whole list of possible averas, which is obviously why he's a former friend. And he went through okay, I don't know why it is. And I don't even know if it's because of that. I have no idea. Maybe I stuck my tongue out at a teacher once when I was in fifth, when I was 14. I don't know why. But at least it forces me to get a little focused on what it could be. So if I bit my tongue and I'm thinking to myself, must be Lashon Hara, maybe it's not. But at least it gets me to think about, you know what, maybe this is an area of life that needs improvement. So the Torah says if a person sees that he's suffering, so do some judging. Think what it could possibly be. Whatever it could be, if it could possibly be. Okay, now, one more point. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol she'arecha. Make judges. The plain meaning over here is it's referring to, sometimes, according to some, it's referring to those who appoint the judges. Now, I ask you a question. If I gave you a piece of paper, and I tell you, the people in the room who you know, the people you're familiar with, I'm giving you a blank piece of paper. I want you to write down their positive qualities, and I want you to write down their flaws. Which one's easier?
Flaws.
Why is that?
That's what you see the bad part.
Right? Give me a page. I'll fill up. I'll run out of ink. Writing down flaws, I'll run out of ink. Positive qualities? Well, he's got nice glasses. Let's see. I think he's got good handwriting. We struggle for flaws. For the positive, we struggle. For the flaws, we're great at picking out the flaws. Is it true or not true? It's why that is, I don't know. I think Rabbi Kaplan was once giving a shiur, and a stray dog walked into the room. A stray dog walked in. So everybody in there was like, a dog, look at that doggy, a dog. Right? Everybody's all gaga over the dog. What happens when a human being walks into the room? Who do I think he is? I was like, why? It's interesting, isn't it? Probably because we have a mitzvah to look at the positive, so there's a Yetzer Hara, and that becomes our test, is to overcome it. Okay, so we try to overcome it. So the Torah says like this. I'll tell you a story. There was once a guy got caught. He stole. So the king sentenced him to death. That was the law in the land. If you get caught stealing, we sentence you to death. Again, they weren't living in New York or San Francisco. You get caught stealing, and in New York and San Francisco, the victim is sentenced to death. So they sentence the guy to death. Okay. So the guy taking him out to execute him, and the guy says to the king, Excellency, I just want to tell you one thing. I happen to know a secret formula where if you pour this formula, this liquid, where trees are going, trees will grow and produce within 10 minutes. You plant seeds, pour in my formula, the trees will grow and produce in 10 minutes. So the king goes, oh, well, that's interesting. This could be financially beneficial. He says, what's the formula? He says, I need some of this, some of that, some of the other. Okay, so they mix the formula for him, and they give him the seeds, and he plants the seeds in the ground. And the king says, no, let's see it, let's pour it in. He says, well, you see, the way it only works if somebody is completely innocent of any theft, somebody who's never stolen, and obviously I stole, so I can't pour it in. So I would offer it to your minister of the treasury. Let him do it. So the treasury minister says, I think, I remember, I'm not perfect, I might have, I don't know. So he says, well, maybe call the Secretary of State. Maybe he'll do it. So he goes, listen, I'd like to think but I've had my day, I don't know, temptation. He says, well, Excellency, I guess you'll have to do it. And the king says, me? I try to be, I try. So the guy says, well, what do you want from me? Every one of you is afraid because you know in your heart that you're guilty. So what do you want from me? Why are you executing me? So the Torah is saying, Shotrim v'shotrim titen lecha. Before you start judging the flaws of other people, the easiest way to not look at the flaws of other people is to realize, you know what, I'm not perfect either. I'm not perfect either. Before we start pointing at other people, realize, you know what, I have my problems too. And the Gemara cause says, Kshot atzmecha, adorn yourself. Literally decorate yourself. Adorn yourself. Kshot atzmecha, then you could start adorning other people. Correct yourself before you start correcting other people. Because we all have flaws. And therefore the Torah says, I know what other people's flaws are. Before you start working on other people's flaws, work on your own. And by the way, judges have to be very careful. The Gemara says that there was a guy came to the court, and he said to one of the Amoraim, I don't remember who it was, I think it was Rav Huna, he said to him that he has a neighbor whose tree is overhanging the public domain and the branches are interfering. So Rav Huna said to him, okay, come back tomorrow and we'll discuss it. In the meantime, Rav Huna himself had a tree like that. So he sent one of his workers, he said, cut down the branches, my branches are overhanging the public domain. So then the accused came back the next day, and he said, listen, this guy told me I have to cut down my branches. Rav Huna says, yes, indeed, you have to cut down your branches. He says, well, what about you? Your branches aren't cut down. He says, oh yeah, let's go take a look. So the guy went and took a look, and he saw Rav Huna's branches were cut down, so he cut down his own branches. So the Gemara mentions several stories like that, where before I go and correct other people, you better be innocent yourself. Not like the Attorney General of the state of Illinois, back when I was a kid. This is the Attorney General of the state of Illinois. This is the guy who's in charge of enforcing justice in Illinois. And in probably about 1972, 1973, the guy died. And they found in his house shoe boxes stuffed with $900,000 in cash, which today would be probably about $9 million. Those are 1973. And I remember as a little kid, I was a little kid at the time. I remember I said to my father over Shalom, like, what's wrong with putting cash in shoe boxes? Maybe he was saving. My father said something like, he was saving all right. Cash. So this is the guy who's the Attorney General of the state of Illinois. So he's been sentencing other people or helping sentence other people to prison for corruption. And this guy is the most corrupt person around. That's what the Torah says. Shoftim v'shotrim titan lecha, make judges for yourself. Judge yourself first. Make sure you're clean. B'chol she'arecha. Okay. Take a look at the next pasuk. Lo sata mishpat, lo sakir panim. Do not play favorites. V'lo sikach shochad. Don't take bribes. Now, what does the word shochad mean? The word shochad, which means bribes. Why is shochad called bribe? Page 1024. Why is a bribe called shochad? Why is it shochad? It's related to the Hebrew word echad. Related to the Hebrew word echad. Shechad. Why? Because when you take a bribe, you become one with the other person. You lose your impartiality. It blinds the wise. And it distorts the words of the righteous. Now, there are two things over here. First of all, you notice that it starts out in the singular. Losate mishpat. It's in the singular. Don't you, in the singular, don't incline to judge. Don't. How does the article translate it? Don't pervert judgment. Losakir panim. Don't play favorites. Velosika shochad ki hashochad ye'aver einei chachamim. Now it talks about the blind. Now it's plural. You jump from singular to plural. Why is it? It should say ki hashochad ye'aver einei chacham. Why is it chachamim? Why, you understand the question? Why are you jumping from the singular to the plural over here? V'salef divret tzadikim. So one of the answers over here is that a judge who takes the bribe, now remember, the judges may have sat with a group of three. There are three judges on the Beis Din. One judge took the bribe, and now he's going to try to influence the other judges that they should also rule in his manner. Remember, the judges deliberate. Why is he doing that? A person who takes a bribe loses his impartiality, because now he's connected to that person. And there is one time you are allowed to bribe, by the way. If a person knows, for example, if a Jew is in an anti-Semitic situation at a court, and he knows the only way he'll get a fair shake is by bribing the judge, so he's allowed to actually bribe the judge, because that'll only get him a fair trial. He otherwise loaded against him. If you go to South America, you're arrested somewhere in Venezuela or in Argentina or one of these South American countries, so you better bribe the judge, because you can be sure the other guy has too. That's the only way you're going to get a fair shake. In Chicago, an honest cop was a cop that after you bribed him, he stayed bought. Right? Now, you're not allowed to bribe a policeman. You're not allowed to give bribes, and you're not allowed to bribe a policeman. I had a friend once who got stopped in Chicago. Cop stopped him. He said, "I'm going to have to give you a ticket." He said, "Can I pay part of it in advance?" Cop says, "Yeah, okay. How much? Whatever it's worth to you." And I had another friend who was he was a butcher. Say he got stopped by a cop. And he said, "Do you want a kosher salami?" He says, "Yeah." So he gives us this big long salami. That was his day's take. You're not allowed to do that. You can't bribe. A cop is an extension of the law. You can't go bribing policemen. So the Torah says not to bribe. Now, you'll notice who it says. Let me ask you a question. If I tell you that Larry Bird was a great basketball player, how much credibility do I have? A certain amount. What if Magic Johnson said it? Got more credibility. Why is that? Because he's an expert in the field. He could really tell. He said it, by the way. He was asked by his friends. Magic Johnson said he was asked by his black friends, was Larry Bird really that good? Because they couldn't believe that a white guy could be a good basketball player. Magic Johnson, quote, he said, "Larry Bird was so good it was frightening." That's a direct quote from Rabbi Magic Johnson, right? A direct quote. So if I say it, it's got certain credibility. If he says it, then it's got even more credibility. You used to have in baseball, they used to have the fans voting for the all-star team and the baseball players voting for the all-star team. But they always had different results, because the fans just vote for guys who are popular. Who really knows, who could really sense the level of expertise is only the players. And in professional football, for sure, it's like that. The fans think out a quarterback threw it, the wide receiver caught it. And that's why, and the players understand it's because the left guard took out something subtle created the whole play, because you're a bigger expert. Medically, it's the same thing too. People think my doctor's the greatest. Sure, because I'm still alive. Right? That's why if you get to the doctors, they'll tell you who are the expert doctors, because they themselves are experts. Who's telling you these people are wise? It's not me telling you the guy next to me in high school who got me through geometry is wise. Hey, he's smart. This is God telling you these are smart people. God is telling you these are smart people. It's the Torah saying it. And even such a person is susceptible to bribes. So much so that it's going to blind his judgment. And then he's going to exert an influence on the other judges, and you're going to have a corrupted judgment. Then it says, one more pasuk, tzedek tzedek tirdof, you must pursue justice, leman tichya v'yarashte asarta asher Hashem Elokecha notze lach, in order that you live and inherit the land that Hashem gives you. Now here we live a very important lesson in Yiddishkeit, gentlemen. Tzedek, tzedek. Why is it double terminology? Why don't you just say tzedek tirdov? Pursue justice. Why does it say tzedek, tzedek tirdov? Why does it use a double terminology? Tzedakah, the Torah talks about tzedakah earlier. Last week's Parsha, the Torah talks about tzedakah. Why does it say double? What do you say, Michael?
Because it may refer to like you shall pursue justice at the beginning of judgment. You shall pursue it at the end of judgment, as in you shall be righteous in the means and in the
Excellent,
end.
excellent, very good, Michael, very good. That means you have to pursue justice, but you have to pursue justice through just means. So, for example, a judge is not allowed. Let's say you have a poor man and a rich man in court. The poor man and a rich man, and you know that the law favors the rich man, and the poor man's going to have to pay the rich man money. And as a judge, you decide you're going to rule against the poor rich man because you don't want the poor man to have to pay. And then outside of court, you'll compensate the rich man yourself. You're not allowed to do that. That's a distortion of judgment. So tzedek means that you want to do good things, make sure you do good things. The ends do not justify the means. The ends do not justify the means in halacha. You want to do something right? Do it the right way. The classic example, and by the way, it's not limited to tzedakah, it's not limited to judges, it's limited to all of Yiddishkeit. You know, a famous story, Shmuel HaNavi, who was his mother, was Chana. So Chana's husband was a man named Elkanah. And Elkanah had two wives, Chana and Pnina. Pnina had children, and Chana did not have children. So what did Pnina do? Pnina tormented Chana. Said, oh, shame that your child can't bring you a plate of food, can't bring you a cup of tea. Things like that. Why was Pnina tormenting her? Because she wanted Chana to daven so Chana would have children. Isn't that beautiful? No. The answer is no, it's not beautiful. And as a result of that, Pnina's children died because she caused pain to Chana. But her intent was good. She got her wanted. Yeah, but you weren't using proper means to do it. You weren't using proper means to do it. There's actually an interesting halachic question. There was a young man who was he was struggling with his Yiddishkeit. And one day he developed a cough, and he came to a doctor. The doctor said to him that, I don't know, this could be serious. I think you're going to have to go through some serious tests. And the doctor knew it was just a bronchitis. He said, I don't know, I suspect something very serious over here. And as a result of the warning from the doctor, the kid got his act together because all of a sudden he realized his life is on the line. Then the doctor asked the halachic authority if he was allowed to do that. He told, no, you have no right to do that. You're not allowed to resort to illicit means. And even if the goal is you have a very admirable end goal, but you cannot resort to illicit means. I know of a case where a young lady was converting to Judaism. And she had her fiance was a Jewish guy, and she came to the rabbi for her conversion. She came to the rabbi for the conversion courses. He worked with her for a while, and it was at the point where now she's ready to go through the conversion. And the rabbi was just not 100% convinced of her sincerity. So he told her, "Listen, I'm ready to convert you, but there's really only one way. There's one more requirement. You're going to have to pick up the phone and call your fiance and tell him you cannot marry him." And she said, "Listen, I want to be Jewish." He said, "Well, that's what the halacha requires. You can't marry him. You knew him before he started. You can't marry him." And she goes, "If that's what it takes, that's what it takes." So I know this. I know the rabbi personally. He said she was crying. Her fiance was crying. He was crying. She picked up the phone and she said, "I can't marry you." The rabbi said, "Okay, now you can marry him." He wanted to make sure. And then he told me his own rabbi then gave him over the head. He said, that was not right because you didn't have any, that's not required according to halacha, and you had no right to do that. So with all the good intentions, what's the expression? The highway to Gehenna is paved with good intentions. So the Torah tells you, tzedek, you want justice? Tzedek tirdof. You must chase it with justifiable means. You have to chase it justifiably. All right, we'll continue tomorrow, gentlemen.